Adding people to your paintings instantly brings them to life. But do you find yourself avoiding them? I certainly used to. This little trick, starting with figures that are ant small, is the easy way in. Let's paint it together and I'll show you. Speaking of the easy way in, let's use line and wash, which is one of my favourite ways of doing a watercolour painting in a sketchbook, because in a sketchbook you know you're not going to be able to rely too much on the watercolour because the paper is usually not that great. So I've roughly sketched out my little lighthouse. What about those people? Well, the first thing we're going to do is make them teeny tiny and small, as we know. But this is really important because what it's doing is it's forcing us to break down the body into the most simple, basic shapes. And really, that head is no more than a dot. One of the most useful things to understand about drawing little people like this, or painting them, indeed, once we're braver we can do this with a brush, but it's much easier with your pencil and pen if you're just starting out. But one of the things to get used to is this idea that the head is nothing more than a dot, and not to make it too big, because as soon as you make it too big, all the proportions seem completely off. The other thing is, we definitely don't need necks. Your little dot can be safely floating above the body shape, no problem at all, and it will definitely read as a person. Now, what about those bodies? The shapes of the bodies is really needs to just turn into some sort of block. Often it is a rectangle shape of some description, a boxy sort of square, perhaps on a bit of an angle. The people sitting down, they're really like little curved shapes. And if there's a little arm sticking out, that's great to add a little suggestion of a pose. And it really doesn't take a lot to suggest that when you're drawing things this tiny. So I've sketched in all the little people I want in pencil. Now I get a chance to reassess any decisions I've made when I do it again in pen. This is one of the reasons that I love line and wash, because you've got a chance to kind of go back and do the same drawing again effectively and decide whether you want to make any little adjustments. I am going to put watercolour paint on the top of this, so it's really important to choose a waterproof pen at this stage. It really does feel a good deal easier doing this a second time round in pen. So it's a great confidence building exercise, I think. I've also chosen to make my little figures just solid in the pen. So I'm effectively drawing them like little silhouetted shapes. I'm choosing to do this because they are so very, very tiny, and because I'm making the whole painting quite small in my sketchbook. So there really is no point trying to put in detail of, trying to draw somebody's different colored pants, or, give them a shirt collar or any of those sort of funny little details. And this again is one of the advantages of forcing yourself to draw something really tiny and small, because that's what we're talking about, letting go of details. When you make them this tiny, you don't have any choice. That is such a tiny little square. I can't possibly think about adding checks to the man's shirt or anything like that. I'm making sure I erase any unnecessary pencil marks at this stage, because once you put down the watercolour paint, it will effectively trap that pencil under the paint and I'll never be able to remove it again. Of course, you can also make the decision that you like the pencil and it's just sort of the history of the drawing, and you can leave it in. I started with some water in the sky area because I want a lovely wash of sunset warmth, because that's what I see in the reference, and because it will coordinate rather nicely with the lighthouse at sunset that I did on the other page, which happened to be in watercolour pencil, if I remember correctly. So I know that if I put a little bit of dampness on the paper before I begin, I've got a better chance of putting in a nice smooth wash here. Nice wet into wet approach. And so I'm using pinks and oranges out of my palette, but at the top I want it to have a little bit of a blue hint as well. So I want to mix up a little bit of blue and pop that in too. This is where the dampness of the paper really helps, because it's going to give me that nice smooth transition without me having to worry about turning the sky green. I also will get to pop in a bit of that same blue into the sea at the bottom. And I like that kind of harmony that we've got the blues at the top and bottom, almost framing our little lighthouse here. I happen to have a colour called Cascade Green, and I find it very hard to paint the sea without using this lovely colour, Cascade Green. It's a granulating colour, so it splits out. It's got a bit of blue of its own, and we'll start to see a little bit of that when it meets the water. But this is one of the things where, you know, because I'm working in a watercolour sketchbook, the paper will take the watercolor, but you have to have slightly lower expectations of the sort of watercolor effects that you are used to when you're using the better quality watercolor paper that comes in sheets and pads. One of the things I really want to try and convey is this sort of sunlit glow of this lighthouse. So I want to be a bit bold with my color choices here. I'm putting I think it might be quinacridone gold and raw sienna, something like that, down the left-hand side, because that's going to be the side that is the strongly sunlit side. And I will make sure I put in some nice darker tones on the other side. I like to soften off the edge of that mark there. Again, I know I've got to baby this paper a little to make sure that it's going to stay soft and damp and not give me a hard edge when I put the next colour into it. And speaking of that next colour, I think I'm going to go with burnt sienna. But I also want to pull in some of the colours I used in the sky. So I'm going to drop in a little bit of my orange. It's such a lovely, vibrant colour. So I want to put in little hints of that to kind of liven up even though it's my light side, I want to put a little bit of extra warmth and richness into that side and suggest some of the brick, the sort of architectural formations around those ridges and things. But let's get out the burnt sienna and put in the right-hand side of the lighthouse tower. Here I want to make sure my edge is soft again. Remember, I made the gold edge nice and soft, and I want to do the same thing with the burnt sienna edge. If I was painting a lighthouse that was rectangular and I wanted a really neat, clean edge on the corner, then I wouldn't do the softening off. But because it is round, I want to make sure that there's a nice soft transition between the light and dark there. So I can take my brush that is, as long as it's not too wet, and I can run it down the edge there and make sure that the transition is gentle. I've added burnt sienna to the rest of that wall on the right-hand side, but I do want to make sure I add in a little bit of more concentrated areas, so richer, darker burnt sienna areas, because I want to add a little bit more shape, depth, and give this building a little bit more dimension. I can also see that my colours are drying lighter, and that's something that watercolour always does. So I do know that I will be going back in and making my shadow side a little bit darker as well. Let's pop a little bit of colour into those rocks that are at the foot of the lighthouse. Rocks are rather fun to paint. Really, it's a case of blobbing in the colour and making sure that there's a good deal of variation, which you can get very easily in watercolour by making sure that you vary the amount of pigment and water. Obviously, if you put in a more dilute area where you've diluted the colour, you're going to have a nice pale section. But if you drop in a nice strong concentrated load of pigment from your brush with very little water, it's going to be richer and darker. And you should have some nice natural transitions out of those little sections that should help us suggest rocks quite easily. Because we did line and wash, we can also go back in with the pen once it's dry. You don't want to put your pen into your wet page or ruin your pen and probably your paper. But it is something that we always have as an option when we're choosing to work with line and wash. Now I think it's time for a bold move. I definitely don't see the dark shadow side that I wanted, so I'm choosing a purple colour. I've got a colour called manganese violet and I rather love it. And I'm using that to paint the shadow side of my little lighthouse building. And that really gives us that nice shape to the building and suggests this idea of the lighting that there is in this particular scene. I chose the purple because it's opposite the gold colours on the colour wheel, and I know that's going to give me a much more vibrant and interesting contrast. I could have put a wash of blue over there, but I find the purple to give me a much more lively and interesting effect. It would be a great thing to do this again and try that. Try painting the shadow in different colours and see how you feel about the more vibrant options. Line and wash definitely is my idea of perfect relaxing sketchbook painting. Shall we do some more? How about some flowers next? I'll pop that video on the screen so that you can paint that one with me next. Happy painting!